Welcome, those who can truly see. The bad guys don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they're the people you trust the most, even family. You weren't crazy for seeing through them. You were spot on. You weren't overthinking things. You were actually understanding what others were too scared to admit. Deep down, you knew when they were being fake, even if you couldn't explain it logically. Your gut picked up on their lies and betrayals. They might have acted innocent, but you saw their inconsistencies and their subtle attacks. They even worried about your sanity when you got close to the truth. They were great actors, but karma has a way of directing the real story, and you have the evidence. This isn't just a story. It's like looking at a crime scene, and the proof points directly at them. What you felt all along was real. You were right. They thought your intuition was just a guess, but it was like a built-in warning system. You were always gathering information, noticing every strange look and lie. You didn't say much because you were observing. Your inner sense was tracking them. They thought they were clever, but you were connecting the dots they didn't even realize they were leaving. That's how it is for those who see clearly. Their intuition isn't just a feeling. It's a powerful, internal tracking device. They underestimated you, thinking your kindness meant you were naive. But your silence was your strategy, letting them talk and lie so you could see the whole picture. You waited for solid proof, and now the truth is hitting them hard. Your ability to sense what's real scared them, which is why they tried to confuse you. But now, the evidence backs up what you already knew. You're way ahead. And when you finally said, "I knew it," their fear said everything. You weren't guessing. You were just letting them think they were safe. They tried to control your life like they were in charge, but they forgot you have a connection to something much bigger. They manipulated things and talked behind your back, thinking they were running the show. But you weren't alone. You were connected to a higher power. They mocked what they didn't understand, but that power was watching everything they did. They thought they were slick, but the universe was taking notes. While they tried to mess with your life, they were actually digging their own grave. They might have been louder and more manipulative, but they didn't have access to your strength. That's what kept you steady. They weren't smarter. They were just more willing to be dishonest. But lies eventually fall apart, and now everything they did in secret is being exposed. They're panicking because they see you were protected by something much greater than them. They tried to play God with your life, and now the real power is stepping in. You couldn't expose them right away because you were waiting for them to trap themselves. You knew early on that something was wrong. The energy didn't match the words. The smiles felt fake. You weren't confused. You were patient. You stayed quiet because you knew if you confronted them too soon, they'd twist the story and play the victim. So, you let them think they were winning, letting them lie and manipulate. They mistook your silence for ignorance. But you were playing the long game, letting them get careless. Guilty people always go too far. You gave them the space to show their true colors. Now you have clear proof. They exposed themselves without you having to do much at all. They got too confident, and the truth spilled out. You just had to wait. You didn't need revenge. You needed confirmation, and now you have it. You weren't crazy. You were right. They weren't smarter than you. They were just better at lying. They could make their lies sound smooth and believable. But lying isn't smart. It's desperate. They were trying to stay in control by using fake charm and stories. You didn't fall for it because you stayed true to your values. Their charm was just a cover for their panic. Lies don't last. Even if people didn't know the whole story, they started to sense something was wrong. Now, the truth is obvious. The same people who believed them are now confused and disgusted. The difference between you and them is that you kept your honesty. They thought being convincing was winning, but they just dug themselves a hole. They studied you to find ways to hurt you, but you studied them to survive. They analyzed your weaknesses, looking for the right moment to attack. They thought they had you figured out. But you were learning and adapting, keeping track of everything they did. Every hurt they caused became proof of their actions. You weren't just surviving, you were gathering evidence. They expected a victim, but they got someone who was silently recording their betrayals. Now, the tables have turned. The lies they tried to hide are being reflected back at them.
Their shock is realizing they underestimated your strength. You weren't a target, you were a force waiting to be unleashed, and the truth you patiently documented is now breaking free. They tried to make you look crazy because they knew the truth about them would look criminal. The gaslighting wasn't a mistake, it was a plan. They knew your truth could ruin them. So, they tried to make others doubt you by calling you unstable or dramatic. They wanted to isolate you and make you question your own mind. Their whole plan was to turn the attention away from themselves and onto you. But now, the truth you held inside is coming out. Their masks are falling off, and their attempts to hide are failing. They're the ones who are now looking unstable and losing control. Their strategy didn't work because your truth was a warning, and now everyone can see who the real problem is. You were never the threat, your awareness was. They weren't afraid of what you might do. They were terrified of what you could see. While your anger might have been obvious, your understanding of their games was silent and unstoppable. You saw through their lies and the pain behind them. This kind of insight takes away their power. What scared them most was that they couldn't fool your awareness. They could lie to others, but their tricks didn't work on you. You were no longer a pawn in their game. They realized they couldn't control someone who saw the whole picture. Your awakening exposed their illusions and threatened their power. You became the threat because your understanding was too clear and too real. When someone like that rises, lies don't stick, and the truth can't be hidden. The reason they faked love was because real love would have instantly shown who they truly were. They never truly cared for you because genuine love requires honesty and respect, which would have revealed their lies. Instead, they gave you a fake version, using guilt and manipulation to keep you trapped and confused. It was a disguise to keep you off balance. But fake masks eventually slip, and their true intentions become clear. What you thought was love was just another way for them to control you. Now that the mask is off, you see the truth, and that understanding is freeing and powerful. You were never fooled by their fake love. You just needed time to see past it. They didn't just cross boundaries, they destroyed them on purpose to watch you. It wasn't a mistake, it was a calculated invasion of your life. They didn't respect your space or feelings. Instead, they tried to understand and control your thoughts and emotions. Every vulnerability they found was used against you. They wanted to predict your moves and keep you trapped. Boundaries meant independence, which they feared. But trying to control you eventually backfired. Every time they tried to manipulate you, they were actually tightening the noose around their own necks. You weren't blind to their tactics. You were watching and remembering. Now, their invasion is the evidence against them. They tried to control you, but they forgot that those who are controlled become the most dangerous opponents. You played the fool, not because you were naive, but because you were smarter than they thought. You let them believe they had you figured out while you quietly collected every lie and red flag. You knew that exposing them too soon wouldn't work. So, you were patient, turning your silence into a weapon. You created a false sense of security for them, making them drop their guard and reveal their true colors. And reveal themselves they did. When people think they're safe, they act without hiding. You knew this all along. You weren't just surviving, you were setting the stage for their downfall. Your patience was your power, and now the moment has come. They thought they were fooling you, but they underestimated your intelligence and your ability to wait. They projected their own darkness onto you because your light made them feel bad about themselves. They couldn't stand seeing you because you showed them what they were trying to hide. You weren't their enemy because of anything you did wrong. It was your clarity that scared them. Instead of facing their own issues, They tried to put them on you, hoping you would break. But your light can't be put out. It cuts through lies. Instead of shrinking, your clarity has grown stronger, exposing their darkness for everyone to see. What they tried to do you has become their own downfall. You didn't just survive, you turned their hate into your strength. They created chaos to distract you from seeing their patterns. Every argument and confusing story was meant to cloud your judgment, but you stayed sharp and pieced things together. You saw beyond the drama, connecting the dots they didn't want you to see. Now, the pattern is clear. You understand their moves and lies. The chaos they created to hide the truth is now what reveals it. Instead of being confused, you have a full understanding of how they operated and how they failed. They laughed at your spirituality until that same spirit gave you a powerful understanding of what was really going on. They mocked your faith, acting like it was foolish. But what they saw as weakness became your strength. Your intuition became a tool that cut through their lies. You didn't just sense when something was wrong, you saw exactly who was behind it and why. This wasn't just a feeling, it was a deep, clear understanding that exposed their hidden agendas. Now, they're scared because they know you can't be fooled. Your inner strength became a weapon. While they were laughing, you were gaining the very insight that's now turning things around. Now that you have proof, they're suddenly quiet, scared, and even pretending to be spiritual. The same people who mocked you are now acting nervous and talking about peace and good energy. Don't be fooled. It's fear, not genuine change. They're scared of the consequences of their actions. These were the ones who were bold and manipulative. But now that you have the evidence, they've disappeared. They can't even look you in the eye. Your silence now isn't from confusion, but from knowing that sometimes saying nothing is the most powerful response. You're not fighting for acknowledgement anymore. You have it. You are the clarity. They know that, and it scares them. Judgment isn't about you yelling. It's about what's coming without a word. They can't predict your next move. They used to be confident when you were vulnerable, but now that you're strong and calm, your silence feels like a warning. They know they can't escape what's coming. You were never imagining things, you were just ahead of the curve. The game they played and the lies they told all make sense now because you see the full picture. They moved in secret, thinking you were blind, but you were documenting everything. Now, the silence they used against you has become a storm they can't outrun. You were precise, not paranoid. You were evolving, not emotional. You were wise enough to wait for the right moment, and now it's here. Truth doesn't need to shout, it simply arrives. They mocked your intuition and tested your spirit, but you became something they can't defeat. Self-aware. This isn't revenge, it's the truth being revealed. You are the proof, the verdict. You didn't just survive, you understood and outgrew it. This is your power, your closure, and just the beginning. Not the version they crafted, not the image they sold to others, but the raw, unfiltered reality that only those with awakened eyes can see. You hold the pieces of a story they tried so hard to bury, and now that it's coming together, their fear isn't about you. It's about truth. Because truth is the one thing that can't be manipulated forever. And the moment you stepped into your clarity, their control ended. You're no longer questioning yourself. You're not asking, was I wrong? You know the answer now. You were right. And that's why everything feels different. Because your power is no longer hidden beneath doubt. It's radiating, undeniable. The shift has already happened. You've gone from survivor to truth bearer, from confused to certain, from silence to sovereign. Their chaos no longer entangles you because you've outgrown their entire strategy. Their manipulations are old tricks, but your discernment is divine. You've become untouchable. Not because you retaliated, but because you remembered who you are. You've become the mirror they can't look into, the silence they fear, the truth they can't run from. You didn't need revenge. You needed peace. And now you have it. You don't need them to admit anything, because the energy speaks louder than their words ever could. You don't need closure, because you became the door. So if you've ever doubted your path, your senses, or your spirit, don't. What you knew all along was real. What you felt was truth. And now, that truth is undeniable, unshakable, and irreversible. Stand in it. Own it. You're not broken. You're brilliantly aware. And that awareness is the beginning of your freedom. If you feel aligned with this message and want to go deeper on this journey with me, consider becoming a channel member. Your support helps keep this wisdom flowing, and you'll gain access to exclusive content, deeper insights, and a community of like-minded souls. Just hit that join button and rise with us.